So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen from My True North, and this is the Add a Zero podcast, where today I'm talking about the 5 future trends that you as a business owner needs to give considerations to. Back in 2018, in the summer of 2018, I was invited to be able to participate in a TEDx talk. If you want to look it out, it's on YouTube and TEDx itself, called The 50 Careers to Train For, which don't exist yet, where over the period of 16, 17 minutes, I think you get 18 on the red dot, I talked about my predictions for where life was likely to be in 2035. Now, bearing in mind, back in 2018, it was before the days of ChatGPT and the explosion of AI. And ironically, I was looking at that talk only a few weeks ago and realised that whilst I'd predicted that the majority of these things were going to come into play over the next 15, 20, possibly 25 years, all the way through to 2035 and beyond, that a lot of the careers that I've been talking about in that episode are already taking part as we speak today, 2025, not 2035. So if we were to look for the next 10 years, I want to share with you some of the 5 things that I think that you need to give considerations to when growing and scaling your SME business. Now, we saw the first of these, hybrid and hybrid working, predominantly take over during COVID and the lockdown crisis, not just here in the UK, but globally. Certainly prior to COVID and lockdown, there'd been a lot of resistance in business with regards to home working. The idea of somebody working from home was perceived by business as them taking a duvet day of not getting much done. And then the environment changed and we were expecting people, because it's the only thing that we could possibly do, to push people to work from home. And then when they realised that their perception of what was going to happen simply didn't take place. In actual fact, when we look at the statistics, and trust me, Add a Zero is based entirely on data. When we look at the statistics, we found that there was, across the sectors and across the industries, between a 9 and 13% increase in productivity when people worked from home. Now, don't get me wrong, that statistic did start to drop a little, back down to about 6 or 7% in the second and third and fourth subsequent lockdowns that we had in that postcode lottery era. But predominantly, productivity was up compared to being in a workplace environment. And therefore, since COVID and lockdown, 2020, 21, 22, we've seen a significant increase in the amount of either hybrid working or working from home as an expectation. Now, don't get me wrong, I want to quickly express that this does bring a different set of challenges, which I'll come back to in a second. But one of the big trends that we're going to continue to see grow and evolve and develop, regardless of how nice and swanky your office block is the expectation from employees for the right to be able to work from home. Certainly either full-time or possibly as a hybrid of the opportunity to work from one or the other, or a combination of the both. And therefore, my first question to you is your business set up and geared towards making that an option? And if not, when are you going to be able to put that in place? Now, all of those expressions of, Jay, that's great if you're only working on a computer, that doesn't work in my industry. All I can say to you is, it didn't work in any industry before lockdown came and we were all forced to pivot. The businesses that did particularly well during lockdown weren't just the ones that sold mouth shields and hand sanitizers. They were the ones that pivoted to the environment that we were operating within. And therefore, if the environment is dictating, if the communities that we work within and that we recruit and employ from have an expectation to either be able to work from home or at least have a hybrid possibility or a hybrid opportunity, then the longer that you resist that, the more likelihood that you're going to get overlooked by some of the best talent that's out there and available. Now, before we move on to the other four, I wanted to quickly just express to you that I did say that this comes with a different set of challenges. Yes, you might not need that big swanky posh address in the centre of town anymore. You might be able to get away with a lot smaller hybrid working unit, possibly even like a Regis building where you just hire space as and when you require it for the employees as they come in and work. The thought of somebody being able to work from home and have an increase in productivity all of a sudden becomes quite an appealing opportunity. And I've seen a number of businesses that have now jumped onto that, and their job contract says to work from home. Their designated place of work is their home address. And yet we've also seen the increase in mental health and well-being challenges that business owners face within their workforce. And that can't be ignored because the statistics show that as the increase in working from home increased, so did the workplace wellness demand and the mental health and stress that then subsequently causes. The thought of being so isolated that they're not part of that regular team and the huddle and the water cooler conversations, to be completely extradited from any form of team and team engagement in particularly in an environment where we're relying on other people within the business. If we're not siloed and stuck in little cells, if we're all working collaboratively on something but from afar, then the need to be able to bring people back together on a relatively regular basis in order to be able to have that human interaction and that connection way beyond the lens, but that emotional engagement, the emotional intelligence, the just the energy of being around other people as opposed to simply stuck and look at a screen needs to be given considerations to as well if we're going to be able to create that. So that's number one, hybrid working. The next one is the skills evolution. Quite simply, the speed and the diversity in which we are now expecting employees to operate is so much more than ever before. The speed of technology has taken over somewhat in the last 3, 4, 5 years and will continue to do so over the next 5 years. And therefore, the level of skill that we are looking for, the diversity of different skills that we're looking for from somebody will have to be given considerations to also. The very fact that we used to employ back in the day of people that have got O-levels and A-levels and GCSEs, and they went on a career path over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years in order to be able to progress through a business. The skill set required to be able to operate effectively in a business today and certainly over the next 3 or 4 years will determine that rather than having a really in-depth knowledge, which will still need some senior technicians and some gurus to be able to look after something very, very specific to lead a team, but the amount of people within the team that will have to have such a diversity of different level of skills and be competent in most of those in order to be able to continue to be multitasking determines that the need, the importance, the critical determination of having a continual CPD, continual professional development for our employees to ensure that whatever they were trained on last time, last week, last month, is as good as they can be, supports the business and the mission, whilst understanding that 3 minutes ago a new app arrived and 10 minutes later a new app will arrive that are continually competing with the skill set that we've currently got. And therefore, the importance of being able to allocate time to be able to ensure that there is a continual learning within the business, as opposed to just doing within the business, will be a growing need for businesses to consider also. Now, I've already touched upon it. So the third one is all around well-being and understanding that if we are inviting people to be able to work from home or hybrid, to have these multiple different skill sets that they're expected to be able to know and evolve and develop, that there's a need to be able to support people as a human being as opposed to simply as a human resource. The understanding, the importance, the emotional connection and the emotional intelligence to understand more about our employees and what are they doing in life as opposed to just doing in work, and how does what we are doing to support them in their work contribute towards what they want to be able to achieve in life. Again, one of the other things that we saw during COVID and lockdown, during the great resignation, is the amount of people that were then subsequently, after the lockdown was over, expected to come back and do a 35, 40, 45, sometimes 60-hour week at a desk. And they just simply said, do you know what? I've got so used to being able to walk my kids to school, to be there when they get home, to be able to have some flexibility around my working hours, that now you're putting demands on me. The demands, by the way, that were there all the way through, but just less emphasised and less enforced during that lockdown period. All of a sudden people said, you know what? My work life has to fit into my home life, my way of life, and understanding not just hybrid, but flexibility, understanding more about the human being rather than the human resource will be of growing importance if you want to be able to retain a great workforce. The fourth of those, as I've already alluded to with AI and ChatGPT, is technology. The simple fact is that the cat is out the bag, that Pandora's box has been well and truly opened, and we are never going back. AI and machine learning and automation is here to stay and will continue to grow and evolve and develop at such an extraordinary rate that all of us are struggling to keep up with what and where and when and why and how. And the things that you have done that have led you to where you are today will continually be challenged by the things that are now available to what we could do tomorrow. I've spoken in many episodes previously, and I'll continue to speak in many more to come, about the importance of relevance, being relevant to our customer audience, being relevant to the people we serve, and understanding that everything that you've done that have led you to where you are today may quickly, sometimes overnight, become far less relevant because technology is keeping up and growing and evolving, that all of a sudden that we become the dinosaur. So understanding that the software that you are using right now is already out of date. There are things arriving in the marketplace to create solutions for things that are problems to us every single minute of the day. And the thing that you bought 3 weeks ago is probably already been superseded by one of their competitors. The importance to acknowledge that just because you've paid an annual subscription doesn't mean to say that in 6, 10, 11 months' time, there aren't some things that are significantly beyond what it is that you bought 12 months ago. The importance of being able to push forward and understand that it's a continual learning curve. So the CPD for ourselves as leaders should be to continually have one eye on what we are doing and the other eye on what else is happening out there that we can continue to remain relevant. That's the fourth. And the fifth thing that I believe that leaders really needs to give considerations to over the next is purpose. I genuinely believe that we have seen a tidal shift between the importance of making money and the importance of having a purpose. I think the generations that are to come have seen so much wealth being squandered, being abused, being taken advantage of, that purpose has taken over. It's almost like Jacob's Cradle, one of those little executive toys where one ball drops and then the other one pops out the other side. the direct impact of seeing wealth in its ugliness that we've seen over the last 5, 10, 20 years, with the amount of wealth across the globe growing exponentially for a smaller and smaller and smaller minority, whilst the growing majority have got less to share with them. The wealth disparity between the super rich and the super poor has never, ever, ever been so significant as it is right now. And the growing generations, the newer generations, have seen this and are reacting to it. The importance of having a strong purpose of why we do what we do, tying who we are with a purpose that resonates with the people, not only that we are selling to, but are working within the business. Having something that people can hang their hat on and say, I work for X because of Y. And for other people to be able to resonate with that and say, do you know what, that makes sense. I'm going to swap. I'm going to stop my current provider and I'm going to buy from them because that makes sense. Customer loyalty is at an all-time low. We've got to be able to understand that without purpose, without leading with purpose, without having something to get behind, if nothing else, look to the UN Global 17 Goals for inspiration. These are the 17 things that are risking humanity right now. And if we could assign or allocate or operate within a parameter that says, we are doing this to help contribute towards that, purpose will be the one that drives business decisions and certainly consumer spending over the next 5, 6, 7 years. So I guess my questions to you is, how does that sit? Where does that sit with you? What have you already got in place to be able to check some measures to be able to ensure that you are at the leading edge of these 5 leading indicators over the next 3, 4, 5 years? Because if you haven't got them in place now, then now is the right times to be able to really give some considerations to these. Remember the old adage? The best time to plant a fruit tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. God bless, take care. I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.